Let's see if we're live. Are we live on YouTube? And we are live. Welcome back, everybody. If this is your first time watching this, welcome. Hit like and subscribe. And if you guys are coming back, you guys know exactly what we do on these Sunday market outlooks, which is we're going to do an outlook for the markets. And so I'm going to be looking at Forex Factory, looking at the scheduled data releases calendar, kind of see what we have in the week ahead that might either give some volume to the charts or might lead to some uncertainty. And so we're just going to see a lot of volatility. So it's good to have an outlook on the data releases. And then we'll just talk about some higher level fundamentals, kind of some higher level macroeconomic themes, and some kind of, I want to say like economic, political, economic. How do I even say this? Trump and Jerome Powell are beefing. Okay. Well, the whole Fed and Trump are beefing. Trump is trying to appoint one of his own Fed presidents, and he's also kind of floating the idea of Jerome Powell's replacement next year. And the guy that they're picking to replace Jerome Powell is a complete schmuck. I think he's a sellout to Trump. So kind of we'll talk about that in the big picture. But actually, no, we'll talk about it at the end. I feel like we'll kind of get sidetracked here. So let's take a look. And I'm doing this from scratch too. I haven't looked at the charts, haven't looked at the data releases. So I'm just going to narrate out loud what my thinking process is as I'm looking through these things. And so basically, you guys can follow along and ideally recreate this routine yourself every Sunday so that you guys can accurately prepare. You don't want to be in the middle of the firefight once the markets are moving to start making decisions about which levels or directional bias. You want to have an idea to start the week off. So let's jump right into this. So first thing I do, jump on Forex Factory. Let's take a look at the calendar. And I'll filter this calendar for the whole week so I can see the week at a glance. I filtered out only US data because I'm only trading the NAS 100. And so I really only care about US domestic data. And I filtered out the reports based on impact. So I don't want any of the low or medium level impact events. I kind of want the orange and the red folders because those are the biggest market movers. All right. So it looks like a pretty busy week ahead. We have PPI dropping, which is the Producers Price Index. It's an inflation measure for producers. And then we also have CPI, which is the Consumers Price Index, which is an inflation measure for the consumer goods. It's a basket of consumer goods. And so we'll kind of look at the front end, which is if producers are paying more for their core raw materials or for just the materials made for production, then eventually they're going to have to pass that cost on to the retailers, and then the retailers would then pass on that cost to us, the consumer. So I say this every time, but PPI is a leading indicator for CPI, so for consumer inflation. We have annual the CPI number, which is just basically they run an average of every monthly CPI number just to kind of see, if a 12-month average. And they're expecting a slight increase based on the previous print, probably due to tariffs, probably due to supply chain constraints, but we'll see how that report comes out. And of course, like I also make this point every time that CPI is also is not the Fed's preferred inflation metric. The Fed prefers looking at not really, they look at all the leading indicators, but they also look at PCE, right? So PCE is kind of more of a direct reflection of the goods that consumers pay for on an average basis. CPI is more of like a random basket of consumer products, and they change out some of those inputs all the time to kind of fit their narrative. So not really the best, metric there. All right, two-step. We'll stay in touch this week, brother. Crush it. Okay, so really we have on the front end of the week, not much, and then we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pretty busy. Preliminary consumer sentiment, preliminary meaning it's kind of like just an early estimate of consumer sentiment, but this is a lot more subjective. It's more of like a survey, and I really don't like surveys. I mean, even CPI, I believe, is done through a survey where they just survey a sample of producers or a sample of like consumers, and that's how they figure out these averages. I would like data-based metrics. So GDP is based on total production. And so that to me is just a straightforward data metric. They don't really try to put a spin on it. Either way, these are going to be some pretty big movers, 8:30 a.m. So these will happen before the market open, which means that we're very likely to see the days move like that initial sort of pump, the levels that we're looking to get retested happen before the market opens. So make a plan, maybe later in the week, wake up a little bit earlier so that you're prepared. Obviously, we're going to plot those trades out the night before and be prepared for that. Okay. Now we'll jump on the charts. I'll show you guys kind of my weekly analysis, and maybe we'll find a trade idea here, which I just opened up the charts and I can already see the trade that I want to take. Interesting stuff. Okay, so we can jump on the higher time frames first. And let me see if I can find one of these charts to use. Okay, I'll use this one. Because some of the charts I have, if I'm looking at a Fibonacci sequence and it's already being respected, then I want to leave that on because I know I'm going to be able to reference it here in a little bit. So I'm going to find one of these charts with what seems to be a bunch of invalidated Fibonacci sequences. And I'm going to jump to the higher time frames first so I can get some context about what the markets are doing. So first thing I want to do is I want to look for the direction. I want to look for the direction, the structure, and the location. That's three things that we teach in the course about when we're discussing. First, you have to do the analysis of the charts, then you can find a trade idea and then execute. But in the actual analysis, direction, structure, and location. So I'm going to find some points of interest here, which are just areas of support and resistance. And what I want to see is that the lows and the highs are getting lower or higher. And what we notice here is that clearly the market's on an uptrend because every floor is getting higher and then every ceiling is also getting higher. Okay. Now we did see something very interesting here. So we're still creating higher lows and higher highs, except for right here. Right now, we've had a bit of a shift in the momentum where we're now creating lower highs. And then over here, even though we had a massive wick above this previous resistance, the body of the candle closed below. So as of right now, there has been a small shift in momentum where the market is no longer creating higher highs and higher lows, but now has started to create lower highs. Okay. Now, the reason this isn't automatically a bearish signal is because what happens when you have higher lows and lower highs is the market is creating a wedge. And so during the wedge formation, it's not necessarily a reversal. It could just be due for a correction. It's a pressure cooker for the next big move. And so we'd like to see is the market to come down and retest and then pop in that direction. So typically, if you guys were to go to a traditional, like if you guys saw those pattern cheat sheets they have for different market patterns, you would typically see a wedge. And then what they would say with the pattern is that if the mark is, if it's a bullet, if it's a wedge that's going upwards, then you'll have, oh my God, that wedge looks embarrassing. Whoa. Let's pretend like that didn't look like the way it just looked. God, I better not fuck this up. I'm going to use the lines here. I ain't fucking this up. All right. So if you see a rising wedge where you have higher lows forming and then lower highs forming, typically this thing is a bearish signal. Now, what really happens is if the market's going to go bearish, this is what happens in reality. So this is the kind of like baby pips version. And then in reality, you'll typically have a fake up and then a drop. And so the market will create a double top and then drop. And then if the wedge goes the other way, so for example, if we actually have a fake down first, oh my God, if the market has a fake down first, then you'll have a bullish continuation. And so because the market is still on an uptrend, there's no reason for us to kind of look at this as some kind of bearish reversal. What's going to happen is a retest of the bottom and a continuation. Now, if we're just going to trade the structure, so right now we've established three very important things. Number one, the direction's bullish. Number two, the market is in between this range. Okay, and then the other piece of the structure would be this lateral. We have the lateral structure, and now we have the kind of more vertical structures. So we have a wedge and we have this range. And then we look at location. Location meaning, is the market closer to the high of the range or the low of the range? If the market is close to the high of the range, we're looking at potential sell opportunities. And if the market is close to the low of the range, we're looking for potential buying opportunities. Is that making sense? And so obviously the direction is that we're closer to the highs. And so we'll probably be looking for some kind of selling opportunity this week. Okay. Now we have this weekly range, and then we also have this larger range. And so, members, you guys already know what I'm looking at personally. Okay. One of those two zones is going to be our selling zone. And it looks like we may have already hit our top side selling zone. Yeah, we did. Perfect, perfect, perfect touch. Beautiful. Let me make sure that my fib is accurate, drawing this thing from the body to the wick. So I'll actually adjust this fib up just a little bit more. And then I'll add a few of my fib retracement levels here just to verify kind of against price. See if we're getting all the necessary rejections that we need. Okay, we have a nice 78 rejection right there. Beautiful 88.6 rejection. Beautiful stop here. Yep, looks like the market's validated this zone already. We've already hit TP1. And so it kind of looks like if the market creates a double top here, we can actually short again. All right. So now that we found the 4-hour zone, we found the daily zone. Now we can go down here and actually find the 1-hour range as well. Let me get rid of some of these fibs because we don't need them right now. And I'll do this on the 30-minute. Members, you guys already should be seeing what I'm seeing here. All right, what phase is this? I mean, okay, this is the easy one. That's phase one. This is phase two, and this is phase three. Now, members, what was the direction of the first fake outside the range? You guys tell me, and then tell me what the direction, the true direction is going to be. I'm not going to be able to say this out loud on YouTube because I don't want to just give away, too much. So like, where's the direction of the trends? We kind of already know. We'll leave that one up for surprise. But members, somebody please make me proud and tell me. There we go. Bobby's got it right. Bobby, you're going to make some money this week, just like you did last week. Okay, so let's take a look here. 88.6. That's the higher time frame. That's a beautiful rejection here. So we already have this big selling zone right here, just waiting to get retested. And so I'm going to be layering in trades. First, I'll do a tester entry here, and then I'll dollar cost average into the top zone. Once we get that rejection, I can close the earlier entries, hold this top line entry, and take this thing down, ideally back to like all the way down to the bottom of the range. Okay, so the 1-hour range that we have right here is we have this high and this low. Beautiful. And the same thing that we have on the higher time frame ranges, we have a sell on the top side, and then we have a buy on the bottom side. So if the market wants to come down and retest the lows, we'll buy it up. And if the market wants to retest the highs, we'll sell it. Ladies and gentlemen, this can't get any easier this week. This is the easiest money I think I'll have made probably all year, maybe all year. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this trading week, and I hope you guys are just as excited. All right, any questions, comments, concerns? The green room, good to see you. Big Jeffner, good to see you. Fake out to the upside, Jose already knows. I'd love to see it, people. If you guys are on YouTube, please drop a like and subscribe. And if you guys do that, then I will be back tomorrow for live trading on the YouTubes. Members, you guys already know what to do. I keep up. Whoop, I just locked my computer. Okay, I keep up with all my trades on my own channel. What I've started to do actually is create a thread. And so what we'll do is, let's say for the trade this week, in order to help us keep track. Oh, wait. I was wondering where my fibs went. There we go. In order for us to keep track of these trades, not get lost, what I'll do is I'll actually be updating these positions in real time using a thread right on Discord. What am I doing here? What do I want to do? Oh, add the 61. Duh. Actually, we'll go to TP2 here for the target. Good 3.5 to 1 R&R. Incredible. Actually, Let's adjust this a little bit more. 2.8 to 1 R&R. We'll probably end up taking partial profits way before. So let's kind of call it a 2 to 1, maybe a 1.7 to 1. So here's what I'm going to do on Discord for members. I just put this trade idea up. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a thread here. Now in this thread, I'm going to call it September 7, 2025. And then anytime that there's a direct update, let's call it lunch for tomorrow. I'm gonna do some like douchebag statement right here. Okay. So anytime that there's an update to this trade specifically, I'm going to just update the thread, and then you guys will see it right under this VIP link. So you can just click on this thread, and then this is only for this trade idea. That way we can have more discussions in the chats here. If anyone's, if you guys want to send GIFs and all this other stuff, we welcome that. But I'll update them in my own channel. But you guys see in my own channel, I'm also putting up like educational stuff too. Whoa, can't show that. I'll be putting up educational stuff. And so this is just going to be strictly for the trades that we're looking at that day or that week. All right, dope. You guys have any more questions? Are we good to go? Bobby, let's get ready to make some money. If you guys haven't passed your challenges, this is the week to do it. I'm not telling you guys to over leverage. Make sure that you're on point. Don't go too light. Like sit down and do some math on the back of a napkin. Say, if I keep trading with the same size I'm trading now, am I ever going to pass this challenge? Am I ever going to get a payout? You really got to be realistic. So some of you guys are playing way too aggressive and careless or reckless, and some of you guys are playing too safe, and the others are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and that's what you should keep doing. All right? Trading doesn't have to be harder than it needs to be. Once you figure this thing out, you got to stop second guessing yourself and stop doubting yourself. It really is that straightforward. So just do the right thing for the whole week. Now you have to know what the right thing is, and that's where having a plan comes in. Because doing the right thing doesn't mean making money or making a perfect choice. It just means you have a set of rules and that you effectively follow those rules the entire week. And so what is the right thing? It's whatever you said you were supposed to be doing that you may or may not be doing. Deal? All right, peeps. Good to see you guys. Happy and safe trading this week. We'll definitely catch up in the group chat for members. And if you're not a member yet, head on over to chart-addicts.com. If you're having trouble accessing that, reach out to us through the email, reach out to us through direct message, YouTube comment, any medium that you guys want to reach out. We'll find a way to help you guys out. All right. Happy and safe trading this week. Take it easy. Peace. There we go. People, it really is that simple. Not going to lie, we might get this move tonight.